On the morning of January 11, 2025, King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia of Spain stood on a dock in Cadiz and watched a ship leave. Their daughter was on it. She was 19 years old. She was wearing a Spanish Navy uniform. She was carrying the name Borbón Ortiz on her lapel. Not Princess of Asturias, not Your Royal Highness, not any of the 6 titles she had held since the age of 8. Just Borbón Ortiz, a surname. One of 76 midshipmen on the 97th training cruise of the Juan Sebastián de Elcano, a 4-masted brigantine that has been training Spanish naval officers since 1928, that her grandfather sailed before her father sailed before her, and that was now pointing its hull at the Atlantic and the better part of 17,000 nautical miles of open ocean. The ship did not return to Spain until July. For almost 6 months, Princess Leonor of Asturias, the most photographed young woman in Spain, the heir presumptive to the throne, the young woman whose outfit choices are catalogued in real time and whose every public appearance generates 17 different news stories, was simply gone. No official engagements. No approved photographs from the palace. No speeches. No ceremonies. Just a midshipman on a tall ship, somewhere between Brazil and Chile and Peru and Panama and New York, doing her job. This is what happened out there. And this is what she came back as. The Elcano's route reads like a list of everywhere Spain's history has ever mattered. From Cadiz, where the ship was built and has always departed, south to the Canary Islands, Tenerife, then Las Palmas, then across 3 weeks of open Atlantic to Salvador de Bahia in Brazil, arriving on Valentine's Day 2025. From Brazil down the South American coast to Montevideo, Uruguay. Then further south, to Punta Arenas, the southernmost city in Chile, at the very tip of the continent, at the edge of the Patagonian channels, where the Atlantic and the Pacific meet and the wind comes off the ice of Tierra del Fuego and nothing about the sea is comfortable or forgiving. From Punta Arenas, the Elcano crossed the Strait of Magellan. This is not a symbolic gesture. The Strait of Magellan is one of the most technically demanding passages in the world. Narrow, unpredictable, defined by weather that changes faster than a forecast can track, the same passage that Ferdinand Magellan himself navigated in 1520 on the first circumnavigation of the globe. The ship is named, of course, after Juan Sebastián Elcano, the Basque sailor who completed that same circumnavigation after Magellan was killed in the Philippines. Every crossing of the strait is a reminder of what the vessel is named for and why. Leonor crossed it in March, and continued north along the Pacific coast to Valparaiso, Chile, where the Elcano met its Chilean counterpart, the Esmeralda, a vessel launched from the same Cadiz shipyard, 26 years later, and now Chile's equivalent training ship. 2 tall ships, built in the same Spanish port, meeting on the opposite side of the world. Leonor visited the Arturo Prat Naval Academy and met Chilean midshipmen who were doing, in their own language and navy, exactly what she was doing. Then Peru, where the ship arrived at El Callao near Lima and received a 21-gun salute from the Peruvian coast as it approached. A salute given not to a princess but to a vessel, and to the midshipman aboard who happened to be heir to the Spanish throne. Then Panama in May, where Queen Letizia flew to meet her daughter. It was the first time mother and daughter had seen each other since January. The reunion happened in Panama City, and the photographs from it are among the least staged images of either woman in recent memory, a mother who had not seen her child in 4 months. And a child who had crossed the Strait of Magellan since they last spoke in person. Then Colombia, Cartagena de Indias, then Santa Marta. Then the Dominican Republic. Then, on June 5, 2025, New York City. She had been at sea, in one form or another, for nearly 5 months. She arrived in New York not as Princess Leonor, visiting the United States on an official state engagement with a security detail and a schedule of approved bilateral meetings. She arrived as Midshipman Borbón Ortiz, one of a crew, docking in a harbor that has received tall ships since the city began. She attended a ceremony involving Spanish residents of the United States in which she acted as flag bearer, not the central figure of an official engagement but a participant in a collective ritual. She attended a concert at Carnegie Hall with her fellow midshipmen. And then she flew back to Spain. Her male classmates sailed home. Leonor didn't. She boarded the Blas de Lezo, an Álvaro de Bazan class frigate, a modern warship rather than a tall training ship, and spent 20 more days on military exercises off the Canary Islands, including live fire drills. The training was not decorative. It was not symbolic. It was a frigate conducting the kinds of exercises that modern navies conduct, and she was part of the crew conducting them. On July 3, she sailed into Gijón aboard the Blas de Lezo at the same moment the Juan Sebastián de Elcano entered port. The two ships arrived together, the frigate and the tall ship, and she stepped off one and back onto the other for the final leg, Gijón to Marin, where the naval school is based. On July 13, the ship arrived at Marin and the 6 months were complete. On July 16, King Felipe VI awarded his daughter the Grand Cross of Naval Merit and she was promoted to the rank of naval ensign. That is what happened during the disappearance. Here is what she came back as. The most obvious answer is a naval ensign. That's the rank. It's earned, not granted. It comes at the end of a curriculum that covers navigation, astronomy, meteorology, seamanship, amphibious operations, watch duties in all weather at all hours. It comes after the Strait of Magellan. It comes after 20 days on a frigate with live fire. The rank means something because the training means something, and the training means something because it was the same training given to everyone else on those ships, not a modified, ceremonial version designed to give a future queen a credential without the difficulty. But the rank is the least of what she came back as. She came back as someone her own country had started, quietly, to go slightly mad about. While she was at sea, Spain had been watching, following the ship's progress port by port, reading dispatches from each stopover, tracking the route on maps. The palace had released a video mid-voyage of Leonor at dizzying heights on the mast, securing sails in open water, doing the physical work of sailing a tall ship with her hands. It went everywhere. Spain watched its future queen climb the rigging of a 19th-century-style brigantine somewhere in the South Atlantic and responded with something that commentators had started calling, without much irony, Leonormania. An approval rating, taken around the time of her return, of 8.1 out of 10, higher than her father's 6.6, higher than her mother's 6.1, the highest number attached to any member of the Spanish royal family. She came back as someone who had been somewhere that could not be faked. This is the thing that the voyage accomplished that no official engagement calendar could have. It produced a credential of physical and institutional reality that exists completely outside the machinery of royal communications. You cannot approve a photo of the Strait of Magellan in January and have it go away. You cannot manage the narrative of 5 months on a ship by releasing a carefully worded statement. The voyage happened, the weather was what it was, the mast was as high as it was, the live fire exercises on the frigate were as real as naval live fire exercises are. She was there, and it was real, and when she came off the ship in July, everyone could see that it had been real because she had the rank that said so. She came back as someone her father's country recognized differently. Felipe VI had done this same voyage, different year, same ship, same tradition. There is a famous photograph of him on a Brazilian beach during his own Elcano stopover, young and laughing, a prince in the sun. That photograph says something about who Felipe was at that age. The photographs of Leonor on the mast in the Atlantic say something different, not a prince on holiday, not even a princess on an educational excursion, but a midshipman working, at height, in weather, with her hands. The monarchy made a choice in how it photographed her and released those images, and the choice was to foreground the labor rather than the charm. It worked. She came back as the first woman in her family to have done any of this. Her grandfather did the Elcano. Her father did the Elcano. Neither of them did it as a future queen. Neither of them did it as a woman in a crew that was still, in 2025, more than 80% male. She didn't make a speech about that. She didn't need to. The fact of her presence in the mast photographs, in the naval ensign promotion ceremony, in the live fire exercises off the Canary Islands, the fact itself made the argument. And she came back to more. In September 2025, she started her third and final year of military training at the General Air and Space Academy in San Javier in Murcia, the Air Force. On December 18, 2025, she made her first solo flight on a Pilatus PC-21 training aircraft, becoming the first female member of the Spanish royal family ever to fly solo. In May 2026, she completed the Spanish Air and Space Force Basic Parachute Course, the first and only member of the royal family, male or female, ever to do so. She made her first solo state visit, to Portugal, where the president awarded her the Grand Cross of the Military Order of Christ. In April 2026, she competed in an inter-university canoeing regatta as part of the Air Academy team and won silver. In September 2026, she will begin studying political science at Carlos III University in Madrid. The person who left Cadiz on January 11, 2025 was a 19-year-old heir presumptive with a strong record of preparation and an 8.1 approval rating that was already high before she boarded. The person who came back had crossed the Strait of Magellan, sailed 17,000 nautical miles, reunited with her mother in Panama after 4 months apart, stood at Carnegie Hall with her crew, transferred to a frigate, done live fire drills in the Atlantic, and come home with a rank she had earned. Spain doesn't have a word for what that is yet. It's not quite what a prince becomes after his military training. It's something that hasn't happened before, a future queen who has been to the places and done the things and held the rank, not symbolically but actually, and come home changed in ways that are visible even through the managed lens of official royal coverage. The ship departed. The ship returned. The person who came off it was not exactly the same person who got on. That's what 6 months at sea does. And that's what it made.